Welcome to a new video of the 1982 Kawasaki 750 Limited rebuild. I thought I'd show you the progress I've been making today and yesterday working on this bike. The biggest job I had to tackle today was replace the engine into the frame. Maybe you remember a previous video in which I showed you how I took the engine out of the frame. Actually, I put it back in the exact reverse way. And that worked fine. I was able to do it all by myself with a car jack again, and also with a few blocks of wood. The mock-up table I had made on which I was working with the engine lined up perfectly against the frame, and I just moved the engine over into the frame, bolted it back in place, and it took me about half an hour, and I was able to do it all by myself. So that's been done. There still has to be some work done on this engine, but that work can be done better when the engine is back in the bike. So let's see what still has to be done. First of all, maybe you can see the hole in the center of this frame. That's where the manual gear of the tachometer goes back in. It connects to the camshaft and it measures the RPM. And to put that back in though, I'll have to take off the tank, but that's not finished anyway. And also the valve cover, which I haven't torqued down yet. And then I can get at the gear, push it back in with a new O-ring, and that should be okay. I have a new gasket for the valve cover, so that after I've done that I can torque that all down, and then the top of the engine is finished. Yesterday I took off the clutch cover, and that was quite some work. I had to drill out 3 bolts that were completely stuck, so I'm going to have to buy a few new bolts for the clutch cover. I took out the clutch plates. They were all stuck together, and I cleaned them all out, oiled them again, and put them back in the right order. I still have to torque them down, and I'll also be needing a gasket for this clutch cover, and I have some cleaning to do in between these engine parts, and put it back together. I'll also need a little gasket for this little fellow, but that's not really a big deal. And there's a sump oil pan underneath the engine. There you see it. And I can get at it better now that the engine is in the bike. And I'll have to take that off because I'm putting in a new gasket. I also bought an oil filter, so there's still some work to do on that bottom half of the engine. If we go to the other side of the engine, there's a little bit more work to do. Let me just zoom in on the front sprocket. Here we are. This front sprocket has to come off because there's a plate behind there, or sort of a cover, in which about 3 seals have to be replaced. Now in order to get this off, I have to order a new chain, new drive chain. I had to chuck the old one because it was completely battered. And without a drive chain on, I'm never going to get this stubborn bolt off. And so I'll do that first, and then I'll change out the sprocket. I'll change all the oil seals behind it and clean everything out. There's also a little chain guard that when I was dismantling the bike in the beginning, that was so stuck with 3 bolts that the 3 bolts broke off, so I have to drill those out before I can put this little chain guard back into place. And I have to clean out this whole side of the engine. So there's quite some work to do on this side. Besides that, I've been looking at the rear sprocket to see if that needs replacement, but as far as I'm concerned it does not. That looks fine. I put in the rear wheel today. And just like I did with the front brake, I'll have to refurbish the rear brakes, or the rear brake, sorry. And I'm also probably going to be buying 2 new shocks because these don't look very nice anymore, and I think they've just about had it. I don't know if they're worth refurbishing. I'll give it some more thought, but I think I'm going to need to buy 2 new shocks. And as I've shown you previously, I've been working on the rear fender, which was almost lost, rotted out, so I've been modifying that. It still needs some preparation work before I give it a flat black coat. It still needs some sanding and a little bit of prepping on the fender. What I've been doing now is just looking at how it's going to hang on the bike, and I think if it hangs a little bit lower it looks much nicer. The original way is that it's way too far away from the rear tire. I don't like the way that looked. So what I'm going to do is probably let it hang a little bit with a few spacers in between, so it just hangs a little bit lower, just to give me enough clearance and just to look a little bit nicer on this bike. Also, the carburetor, I put that on just to give you an idea what it's going to be looking like. I'm not going to replace the airbox with a filter, but I am going to add 4 pods, which means rejetting the carburetor. So that still has to be done. That's an important step to take. Of course, the tank still has to be finished. I've got some ideas on how to do that, which I'll share with you in a next video. I really want to get rid of these handlebars. I think they're terrible. And I've been looking at new handlebars, so I'll be ordering those. I also want to get some new grips. And of course, but that's a detail, a new rear view mirror. I also want to make sure that this master cylinder housing of the front brake is tidied up. It doesn't look very nice. Well, as shown before, the front end of the bike is as good as finished. I am going to be needing a new front tire. There's just not enough tread on this one. But the brakes have been done, the seals in the forefork have been done, they all work fine. The fender's been done, the headlamp, the cockpit has been done. So that's looking nice. So there we stand. I still have the exhaust, and I think I'm going to sand those down and paint them flat black with a high temperature paint. And as it's looking now, I'm probably going to be replacing the muffler also. I'm not very satisfied with this muffler. So there we have it. So now you get a feel what I've been doing over the past 2 days. Now it's starting to look like a motorcycle again, and it's looking quite neat. I'm enjoying myself, and I hope to bring you a new video in maybe 7 to 10 days, and then give you an update on the work that I've been doing, and hopefully I've done a number of things that I've been explaining to you now. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and look forward to a next video.